Afternoon, this is Bryan with Colorado Mountain Living. In today's episode, I'm making the mortises for the bracing on the timber frame. We've got quite a few braces that we're in the process of making right now, so we have a lot of mortises to make. And so I made some jigs to use on my router. So I'm using a couple different jigs in a two-step process to make the mortising, and the majority of it, which I'll drill out with an 1.5-inch Forstner bit to get the main meat out, and then I'll use a couple different router bits to finish it out. Actually, 3 different, because I'm going to put a 45-degree angle on one end to mate up with the bracing itself. So here we go. So Amy and I are making our own timber frame home. We're actually doing all the building ourselves, or 99.9% of it. And so we needed a fast, efficient way to do the timber framing, making the mortises, making the tenons, etc. I have 2 routers, and so I thought this would be a great way to be able to make a uniform, repeatable mortise by using jigs. I do not have a chainsaw mortiser, and those are extremely expensive, and so I didn't want to put that kind of money out when there's something else I already had. Alright, here we go with the first step with the router. Got jig number 1 already put on the beam. When I used jig number 1, I used a 4-inch flush trim bit. I started about halfway down the hole and then plunged it the rest of the way to get a nice clean uniform mortise. The first jig I used a brass collar for the guide. The bit didn't have a bearing on it. But for the second one, I had a nice bearing on there, so I was able to use just a standard flush trim bit to route with. Alright, so you can see we got a nice clean hole for our mortise. Right there. Alright, step number 2, we're going to put on the other jig, and we'll cut out the 1/2-inch mortise. I used a 1-inch flush trim bit for the second stage of the mortise that I was doing for the 1/2-inch recess. Alright, so I've got a nice 1/2-inch recess in the mortise, or in the beam. And then so our brace will recess in there, that 1/2 inch. And the last thing I'm going to do is put a 45-degree angle right on that edge right there. And I'll show you how to do that. Alright, there you have it. Got a nice 45 chamfer on there. We're finished up with a chisel, and then we'll see how it fits. Alright, so I've got it all put together. This is the final product, and obviously this is a test piece that I've been practicing on. I've made my share of mistakes, and so I just don't want to do it on the final product. This is actually one of the braces that we'll be using. In another episode I'll show you what I did to speed up the process, since I have to make 14 of these. But you can see, nice tight fit all the way around there. And again, the brace sits down a 1/2 inch into the timber, and then there's a 3-inch tenon actually beyond that, so it's sitting in there 3.5 inches total, and then there'll be 2 pegs in each one. And in our next episode I'll show you how I did the braces and what I did to speed up the process, since I had to make so many cuts on them. So 14 braces total, 28 tenons, and so I'll see you next time. Take care.